Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. This 2019 Blumhouse production is about a boy with behavioral problems getting put on an island that's supposedly uninhabited to help correct his behavioral problems, of which they never really address whatsoever in the film, but whatever. It's all about a monster being on the island devouring flesh and blood, so let's check this out. Let's review Prey.
Stay close to the fire.
This movie starts out with Polaroid pictures with the credits rolling and a family that lives with a jungle tribe. Later we'll discover it's on that island. And then Toby's at home, present day, living on his phone, ignoring his dad who's working on a sweet, sweet car. And then a life-size monkey shows up with another man and stabs Mr. Burns. It wasn't Maggie, and they steal the car.
No.
Toby calls for help, and sometime later, a psychologist is sending him on a lost and found program. Then we see Toby and a group of kids sailing to an uninhabited island. In a group of uninhabited islands, and each student is going to get dropped off on one of these islands and forced to camp there for a little bit. Toby gets dropped off. Who thinks this is a good idea to do to a traumatized kid? He talks to himself for a while, sets up his tent, explores the island a bit, finds a dead monkey, and some monkeys steal his food from his tent. And then he goes into the water and steps on some seashells and cuts his foot up pretty good. Later that night, he ends up just going through the woods, and some human-sized thing runs past him twice. He fires his flare into the forest and then passes out. Maybe try firing it into the sky. He wakes up the next day to some sliced coconuts beside him. He sees a young woman in the water and she gets out, and he creepily follows. Who do you think cut the coconuts for you, dude? He eventually meets her and she goes hunts a boar. She's from a missionary. Is that the right word? She tells him to stay by the fire that night before heading out. Problem is, he has a bad dream of the monkey man stabbing him. Problem with that is, he never saw the monkey guy that stabbed his father, so... Creepy masked dude sneaks around but then disappears unrealistically. The next day Madeleine shows up and she takes him around and heals his foot, showing him these numb berries. Man, she can fish, cook, and survive. This dude should marry her. It's getting late and Maddie sets some good ground rules. She says, don't go through these trees or cave or you'll die. My mother will kill you. Well, he says he has to leave the next day, which upsets her.
Madeleine, what are you talking about?
I'll see you tomorrow.
No, tomorrow. I leave tomorrow. Kay's picking me up first thing in the morning.
You were just gonna leave without telling me?
That's what I was trying to tell.
If you wanna leave, then just leave.
Madeleine, stop!
Kay sits on a boat till she feels it's early enough in the morning, and then she goes ashore, searches for Toby. Seriously, unexplored doesn't mean uninhabited. And she goes into the woods, and she gets a light shined on her, and then attacked and killed by a demon. Fate to morning. Toby runs out to the beach in the morning. Seriously, did the demon take the boat, row out to the bigger one and sink it? He actually finds the life preserver and then the boat upside down, and Madeleine's mother is swimming out from it with supplies. Toby swims in the upside down boat. There's a little bit of air in there, so he's able to search around for a bit, and he finds some flares and a dead Kay. So the demon took the body back to the boat? That doesn't make a lot of sense. It's trying to cover up its tracks for the investigation that's never gonna happen? Okay. Well, Toby ends up swimming out of there, and then he finds his clawed flashlight later in the forest, and he goes into the tree he's not supposed to. He climbs into it, and it's a rocky cave that's leading down. And seriously, dude, if the sounds of bats scare you, just wait. And then we hear these whispers going on around him, and then a bat actually scares him to dropping his flashlight. But he does find it, and then he sees these cave drawings, which is clearly drawn by a child. He manages to get through, and he sees the burnt church, the church that we saw earlier in the credits. And then he sees a goat, and it gets arrowed down by Madeleine's mother. Seriously, you're hunting goats? Was it a tough game? Difficult adversary? He sees a tree fort and that must be their home. It's a shame he's not stealthy because he could totally have an advantage. He finds Kate's backpack and then a bunch of passports and some radio and he starts to use it. Like, dude, that's not the place to use the radio, especially when she's close with a bow and arrow. Maddie and her mom show up and he sees one of the demon masks and then Maddie finds him and says meet her down at the beach. And then he goes and I'm seriously, this is right out of Predator. He's setting up traps and he's fishing. He's become pretty self-sufficient, even built a giant fire. Maddie shows up and he tells her that he thinks her mom killed Kay. And she mentions some of the memories that she has from her past and that she thinks that there are demons on this island and that they should leave. No shit. The next day a plane flies by, but of course it doesn't see anybody. And then he finds a lighthouse, but it's missing gas and Madeleine's mom has gas. And as he's searching back there, Cameron jumps out, one of the students. Scares the shit out of him too. And he said since Kay didn't show up that he took a rowboat he found and came over there. Cameron has logic though.
Let's just get out of here while we still can. Are you gonna let some crazy bitch torture you?
Toby sneaks back into the area where Maddie lives. I mean, you could just wait till it's safe, and he runs into the mom, but she actually just talks to him and says that Maddie's missing, and then he makes a run for it, and she follows and gets impaled by a trap. The mom says that Maddie killed them all, even Kay, and then we learn through a flashback that little Maddie had purple eyes and was possessed by a demon and killed everybody except her mom.
She spared none.
Cameron fulfills his purpose of being an extra body for someone to stalk and kill. And then Demon Maddie shows up, but in the firelight, she goes back to being normal Maddie, and she's so excited that mom's dead that they can finally leave, she starts making out with Toby, and then he puts the numbing berries that he used on his foot earlier into her mouth, and then ties her up. Kinky. He runs back and grabs the gasoline and goes to the lighthouse and starts working on it. He has some flashbacks of him and his dad when he was younger working on his car, and then the lighthouse works and it starts to go up, but he's not careful when he comes down the stairs. Before he can get out of the lighthouse, he must face Demon Maddie, who can appear and disappear. She's got tricks. She can even be a child version of her. And then he ends up lighting all the gas on fire and locking her in there after she spit on him with some demon crap. And then she turns into normal Maddie, which is kind of sad to watch her sit there. That she's going to be burnt alive. You're an ass, Toby. He swims out to the boat, and I'm curious if the black veins that were coming out of him when he got spat on is infecting him at all. But it's a moot point. Then we see the rescue guys talking to the survivor, who's Madeleine. The end. I think the execution could have been done a bit better. Don't get me wrong, this isn't bad. I just think it could be better. Obviously they're operating on a low budget, but they did a lot with that budget. It kind of gave me Tom Hardy Minotaur vibes. I mean, they built towards the twist, but I would have fleshed it out a lot more. Like, not wanting to believe it, but then having to accept it, and then being heartbroken when he had to leave her behind. The acting was fine and the pacing was great. Again, just a little touch up to the script and this could have been really good. It's definitely not the 13% Rotten Tomatoes gave it, and I can't tell you not to watch it, because it's decent to watch. I would have liked a little more lore though about the demon when it possessed the kid. Like, obviously it inhabited this island, but it wants to get off this island and go kill other people. To be that bloodthirsty thing that's described in IMDb that we never actually saw. Maddie's mom's played by Jolene Anderson, which I liked in Harrow Season 2, which led me to this and Dustwalker. Kristine Froseth was pretty good in this. I mean, I'm not sure they knew what age she was, because she came off as a younger girl, but then she was all like getting pretty freaky with Toby there. And Logan Miller was decent. I just would have done more with his character. In the end, I applaud this concept. I mean, who doesn't like demons on a deserted island, able to kill people? There should have just been more people for them to kill. Like, the whole group should have gone there. That would have been epic. Then you could have had so many kills, everybody turning against each other. This even could have been a psychological thing of being stuck on this island. A little bit of Lord of the Flies, which I kind of got that vibe when she was hunting that boar. But in the end, I can't say you shouldn't check this out. Pretty decent. 2019. Pretty recent. Well, as always, thanks for watching.
Relax, you're safe now.